Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk Podcast slash YouTube slash We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. For my family out there, man, y'all know what it is, man. Playing tournament is officially over, so you know what that means, man. It's playoff time. It's the best time of the year. Us Hoopers, man, this is what we live and die for. This is where champions are bred. So let's go ahead and get into this, man. In this video, what we're going to be doing is recapping all the playing games, just giving a quick recap of what happened, who won, and then I'm going to go ahead and get into my playoff predictions. So let's go ahead and kick it off here, y'all. Let's waste no time. If you new, make sure you smash that subscribe button for NBA content, man. We dropping 2 shows per week, man. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the first game that we had was on April 11th. That was the Hawks versus the Heat. The Hawks beat the Heat 116-105 to secure that 7th seed. And I mean, let's talk about this game, man. This game was a tale of two halves. We seen the Hawks come out in the first half and dominate, scoring 36 points in the first quarter, 30 points in the second quarter, and the Heat outscored the Hawks in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So you could really see the difference in the two halves right there, man. I mean, first thing I noticed was the Hawks' intensity on both ends, both on the defensive end and the offensive end. And the defensive end is really what forced the Heat into tons of turnovers and tons of early silly mistakes, and that's what really allowed for the Hawks to be able to get off to that early lead, that early hot start. And to be honest with you guys, the whole game it just felt like the Hawks they were able to weather whatever storm that the Heat was trying to throw their way because of that early lead that they were able to get on the offensive end. You were getting contributions from everybody. Trey Young, he had 25 points. Dejounte Murray had 18. Sadiq Bey had 17. Boyan Bogdanovich, that's a hard name to say. He had 14. Oneka had 12. And John Collins and Jalen Johnson both had 10 points. Not to mention Clint Capella's 21 rebounds, and he did have 8 offensive rebounds. That's huge. So I mean, the Hawks just came out with intensity in that game and really took it to the Heat. And I mean, as far as the Heat, man, I mean, I feel bad for them in that first game. They were relying on a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry who ended up going off for 33 points. And don't get me wrong, he did his thing and all that. It was his highest points he's had all season. But if it wasn't for a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry doing that, they would have got blown out the water. So this was a really bad game for the Heat. The only other players that really stepped up, honestly, was Tyler Hero with 26 points on 52% from the field, and Jimmy Butler finished with 21 points. But everyone else on that Heat team, I mean, let's just be honest, they were a letdown. Bam Adebayo disappeared. Caleb Martin was just a negative all around, got minutes, just really didn't do anything. Was just out there getting some cardio. And the Heat didn't really give Victor Oladipo enough touches. He's a great guard to run the offense out of. I understand feed Kyle Lowry if he's the hot man, but definitely let's give Vic more than 10 minutes out there. So at the end of the day, man, the Miami Heat definitely deserved to lose that game. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game we had on April 11th. That was the Lakers and Timberwolves. The Lakers beat the Timberwolves 108-102. Another great game, man. Had 3 times that the lead changes, 3 times that the game was tied. Lakers' largest lead was 6, and the Timberwolves' largest lead was 16. So let's go ahead and get into this game, man. I mean, first thing I noticed, to me, first thing that jumped out at the TV when I'm watching the game was Karl-Anthony Towns' aggressiveness, man. And he needs to be like that. He scored 9 points in that first quarter, 8 points in that second quarter for a total of 17 points just in the first half. He was controlling the game with his sheer dominance and being able to score, getting players open because the double teams were coming. The double teams are coming. If you go back and watch that game, you're going to see the Lakers do so many double teams his way, and he was just dumping off passes, whether it be to his teammates and Mike Conley or Nikhil Alexander Walker. He was just getting them the right open looks. Torian Prince was getting so many open looks because of Karl-Anthony Towns. But one thing I did notice, and I'm not gonna lie, is that the Karl-Anthony Towns feast kind of started to slow down as soon as Anthony Davis started guarding him. And I think that Darvin Ham finally got onto that later in the game and finally started matching up, AD's minutes with Karl-Anthony Towns. And then that's when, that Eden started to get a little less. Because, I mean, in that second half, Karl-Anthony Towns only had 7 points. And I think that was around the time that Anthony Davis really started to guard Cat more. Because really, when Cat was having his little feast session, it was when the Lakers were trying to run that small ball and run Rui at the 5 or run Winnie and Gabriel at the 5. And, I mean, that's a whole other problem, man. That's bad within itself. but I guess that's the Lakers small ball lineup. And I mean, from the Lakers side of things, we seen the usual 30-point double double from LeBron, 50% from the field, and the 3-point line. I mean, that's usual. Anthony Davis, 24 points, 15 rebounds. Like I'm happy. All that's cool. But when I'm really hanging my hat on for the Lakers is the other guys that stepped up. And I mean, Dennis Schroeder was huge, man. A very aggressive, attack the paint. He shot 8 free throws and was 8 from 8 from the free throw line. Finished with 21 points. Hit a very important three at the end. I mean, Rui Hachimura ended up with 12 points. Austin Reeves was just getting easy buckets at the free throw line just by getting to the line, being smart, doing his typical, where he drive, get hit by the player, then go up. And I swear, Austin Reeves get that one every single time, man. So man, yeah, definitely shout out to the Lakers. Other players and role players for stepping up, big man. And then even want to give a shout out to D'Angelo Russell, man, because I know some people are hating on him, saying he disappeared in the playoffs and this and that. And I'll give you it. He definitely wasn't the D'Angelo Russell that we know and love, and that can score and get his own bucket, create for himself. But he was setting up a lot of players. Finished the game with 8 assists. And on the other side of things for the Timberwolves, man, Anthony Edwards got to show up. Karl-Anthony Towns did his thing, man, and the role players on the Timberwolves tried to step up. And Kyle Anderson scored 12 points, Torian Prince 14 points, Nickeil Alexander-Walker 11 points, but it just simply wasn't enough. Anthony Edwards, they're one option, or if right now, if you're a prisoner of the moment, you like Karl-Anthony Towns, they're two option. However you want to cut it or slice it, one or two option cannot be having 9 points in a big time game like this. I know this wasn't necessarily win or go home, and I know they got to play on the next day and all that, but yo, you got to step up, and all right, here we go. April 12th, we got the Bulls and the Raptors. The Bulls went ahead and beat the Raptors 109-105. And I mean, shout out Levine, man, because I'm not gonna lie, this was the game I was most sure about, that the Raptors were gonna win. I really was most sure that the Raptors were gonna win. And they were winning really until about the third quarter. And then they had just a complete meltdown late into the third quarter, and that bled into the fourth. And that's what caused them the 19-point lead, and ultimately what caused them the game. They got outscored 38-22 in that fourth quarter, y'all. That means that the Bulls just took it to them. I'm talking about on the defensive end, on the offensive end. They did whatever they had to do, and it wasn't just scoring on the defensive end. They had forced the Raptors to have 10 turnovers just in that second half. It was the Raptors' lack of ability just to play defense. They were fouling so many Bulls players. They were just getting to the line. The Raptors had 15 fouls as a team in that second half. They shot poorly, shooting 25% from the 3-point line, 40% from the field, and a horrendous 45% from the free throw line. I mean, it was just their lack of defensive awareness. Just saw so many miscommunications out there, and honestly, the Raptors deserved to lose that game, and they went home. And I'm really wondering about the Raptors' future now. Another game that we had that day was the Thunder versus the Pelicans. Thunder beat the Pelicans 123-118. In my opinion, this was the best game of all. With really back and forth, 13 lead changes. OKC came out on fire in the first half, led by Lou Dort. He scored 14 points in that first quarter, and I mean, it's just been great to see Lou Dort's development. He came into this league as a defender, and really has improved on his shot, and now is a really like viable offensive option out there. And he still is that great defender. He guarded CJ McCollum, so he was fighting over screens, getting to it. And on the offensive end, like I mentioned, very aggressive, shooting 10 free throw attempts. So you gotta give it to him. And then, like I mentioned, this was the game back and forth. That was the first quarter. Second quarter, Pelicans come out, scored 35 points, led by Trey Murphy's 15 points. He went on four or five from the 3-point line. And like I mentioned, really back and forth game, because in the third quarter, what happened? OKC explode for a 39-point quarter, almost a 40-point quarter, led by SGA with 17 points, Josh Giddey with 12 points. Josh Giddey didn't actually miss a single shot in that third quarter. It was wild. But after watching that third quarter, man, I mean, to be honest with you, I had a complete mindset change on the Oklahoma City Thunder, man. I'm like, they're not just playing with house money. This is a legit team. This is a legit team, man. I'm trying to tell you, they're the second youngest team in the NBA. The first team is the Rockets. And look at the difference. Look at the difference between where the Rockets were as far as maturity. And I seen that video of Josh Christopher and mocking his coach. Like that's not mature. That's not something a mature player does. So and then look at the difference. SGA both of the Jalen Williams on the Oklahoma City Thunder and all their young players. I mean, they had two players out there today in the playing game that was 20 years old. 20 years old. So I mean, they got a young roster, and look what they're doing, man. So just want to give it to them because they're an extremely versatile team. And then let's go ahead and get into the playing games that we saw today. That was the Bulls versus the Heat. I am recording this on April 14th, Friday, April 14th, the day before playoffs, baby. Max Strus came out on fire today, y'all. Scored 14 points in that first quarter. And the rest of the game, to be honest with you guys, was a slow fight. Both teams only didn't score 25 or more in a single quarter until the fourth quarter. Then the Bulls just had a total breakdown. Similar to that Raptors game. The Raptors had the breakdown. This time the Bulls had the breakdown because they allowed for 35 points in the fourth quarter by the Heat. And in 2 minutes of the last 5 minutes of the game, the Bulls didn't get a single bucket. Heat went on a 12-4 run, and it really wrapped up the game. Honestly, not many thoughts on this game. Just want to say Vucevic got to go, or the Bulls need to get a real five because he cannot keep playing a five. This is an atrocity. And then let's go ahead and get into the last play-in game. After this, we'll get into my playoff predictions. Last play-in game, we had the Timberwolves versus Oklahoma City Thunder. Lou Dort came out with that same great energy. I love to see the matchup between Ant and SGA. They were going at it, two young, great guards. And Karl-Anthony Towns is aggressive. Again, I love to see it. His first 13 points, 10 of them points was in the paint, y'all. So he was really being aggressive, getting to it, taking advantage of his size, taking advantage of his ability down there. And the Thunder tried, man. I'm not gonna lie, they tried, y'all. But like I told you, they are so young. And I think that in this game, their youthfulness really came out. I feel like the Timberwolves had control of this game the whole time. Just felt like it was vets that knew how to play the game, knew when to slow it up, knew when to speed the game up. And I just don't think that really, I, after that second quarter, I don't even think the Thunder had a shot in this game. After SGA went down, I was like, oh, yeah, it's over. So so yeah, man, that is our playing game recap. Just real quick recap. And then now let's go ahead and get into our playoff recap. And so I mean our playoff prediction, not playoff recap. And the finals ain't over yet, baby. The finals ain't over yet, baby. But look, we'll go ahead and get into our playoff prediction. Let's go ahead and kick it off in the East. We're gonna go ahead and kick it off with the number 1 seed Bucks versus the number 8 seed Heat, who just got in. I'm gonna go ahead and go Bucks with a sweep, baby. Bucks with a sweep, baby. I mean, I think the Bucks need to remind everyone the dominant team that they are. I know Chris Middleton went out with the injury, and they weren't in the finals last year. I think a lot of people may have had the prisoners mentality and kind of forgot how dominant they are. So I think the Bucks are gonna come out and show them the show everybody um, that we're still that team. But also, I just think this is a bad matchup for the Heat. They literally have the worst ranked defense in the league, and the biggest reason they have that is why because they lack big men. They lack a paint presence. They lack a true big. Bam Adebayo is not a true big in this league, and the Bucks are a team full of freaking trees, man. This is just a bad matchup for the Heat. I think the biggest difference maker for the Heat is going to be Bam Adebayo. He's going to have to do his thing defensively, and then offensively, he's going to have to help. He can't have 5 points. He had 5 points tonight. He cannot have 5 points because Jimmy Butler is going to need help out there. Max Strus is going to need help out there. Tyler Hero is going to need help out there. Kyle Lowry is going to need help out there. So Bam's going to have to do his thing both offensively and defensively. So he is my biggest difference maker. Next matchup we have is going to be the 4 seed Cavs versus the 5 seed Knicks. For that, I have Cavs in 6, baby. I mean, this is going to fully depend on Julius Randle's health. He did sprain his ankle, and he's listed as questionable right now. He leads the Knicks in points and rebounds, so he's way too important to be missing a game. And I mean, honestly, this is the way I feel about the Knicks. With just Jalen Brunson out there, it's not enough. With just Julius Randle out there, it's not enough. You need both out there. Like if you have only one or the other, they just aren't really a real threat. It makes it a lot easier to defend them. You could throw doubles and not really worry about a player like uh, Julius Randle being open or a player like Jalen Brunson being open. for when the double teams come. So not having him out there is very concerning. Not having him 100% out there because I'm sure if worst comes to worst, Julius Randle will thug it out and figure it out. But just to not have him 100% really hurts the Knicks and just don't really like their chances. I also think that the Cavs are just an overall better team than the Knicks. They do have a healthy roster, more than anything, right? And they have the length to be able to keep up the Knicks. We all know the Knicks are a real lengthy team, and they just have the best player on the court in Donovan Mitchell. And we all know that in playoffs, man, that matters. That matters. You got to have the best player on the court, and who's going to be able to just go get a bucket at any time. So for that, I got Cavs in six. Then we got the 3 seed 76ers versus the 6 seed Brooklyn Nets. For that, I got 76ers in five. Look, man, I'm going to give the Nets one game because they actually have somewhat of a good roster, to be honest with you. They got a bunch of good defenders and, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Nick Claxton, Royce O'Neal. But that's not all they got. They actually got some real bucket getters and Spencer Dinwiddie, again, McHale, Cam Johnson. All these players have really broke out. Seth Curry, players who know how to put the ball in the basket. And in the playoffs, man, you need players who just create for themselves. And on the offensive end, and Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Seth, and McHale, all those guys can create for themselves. So, man, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give them one game, but besides that, I don't think it's gonna be much of a fair matchup, man. I mean, Joel Embiid is an absolute monster. He is gonna eat on Nicholas Claxton. I mean, Nicholas Claxton is gonna be baby food to him. But and that's the thing. Nicholas Claxton is a good defender, but Joel Embiid is on a whole nother level. And I also think it's just gonna be good for Joel to, gain his confidence coming into the second round. We all know Joel's never made it out the second round. So for him just to gain some confidence coming into the round, get it rolling, that'll be good for him. Biggest difference maker for me 76ers side, it's got to be Joel Embiid. He's going to eat. He's going to do his thing. We all know that. And for the Nets, I would say the way they defend Joel Embiid, man. And then let's go ahead and get into our last matchup for the East here, and that is the 2 seed Celtics versus the 7 seed Hawks. And I think just like that Bucks series, it's going to be a sweep, 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 baby, because I think the Celtics got something to prove after choking in the finals last year. And then just like I mentioned with the Bucks, if the Bucks sweep, the Celtics got to sweep, man. It at this point, it's like whatever you can do, I could do better. Check this out, man, because both of the teams is going at it. So that is my East predictions. Let's go ahead and jump to the West. To the West, in the number, we're gonna go ahead and go with the number 1 seed, Denver Nuggets versus the number 8 seed, Minnesota Timberwolves. For that, I got Nuggets in five. I mean, overall, I think the Nuggets are just a better team than the Timberwolves. They've been a more consistent team throughout the season, and I think the Timberwolves have been the definition of inconsistency. Karl Anthony Towns, he hasn't been able to play. He hasn't been able to be out there as consistent. He's been going through injuries. They've been inconsistent with their lineups. They've been inconsistent with rotations. The, their coach Chris Finch has been inconsistent. But most of all, I think Anthony Edwards has been inconsistent. He started off the year slow, then started to pick it up, then again slowed it down, and now had that terrible performance. So I just think the inconsistency is going to be a little bit too much. As far as difference maker, it's got to be Karl Anthony Towns. He's going to have to try to match at least half of what Jokic. Jokic is going to have to. Jokic is going to get his and do his thing, but Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to try to dominate at least half of that, and match that, man. So the Timberwolves even have a shot. Let's go ahead and keep it pushing to the next series. That's going to be the 4th seed, which is the Phoenix Suns versus the 5th seed, the Los Angeles Clippers. For that, I do got Suns in 6. This is going to be a very interesting series, but I just think that the Suns are a much better top-heavy team. And in the playoffs, lineups get shortened, and the top half of teams really play. Bottom half, bench players, they kind of get their minutes chopped in the playoffs. So if we're looking at the top heavy teams, I think the Suns are definitely up there with that lineup that they have. And then let's talk about another concerning factor for the Clippers, man. Paul George's health. As of now, he's sidelined for game one. And if he's not 100%, this might be Suns in 5. I'll be honest with you, man, because as much as people may think Kawhi Leonard is still that guy, he's not. He's not. He's not that guy anymore to be able to carry on his own. He's just not that guy. Look, I'll give you this. Nobody in today's league can carry a team on their own. You, at the absolute bare minimum, need another star there with you or another player there with you. And if Paul George is not going to be there, if Paul George is going to be not 100% questionable for game one or game two or whatever, and that's going to put the Clippers in a really tough hole, a tough situation. If you're trying to run with two stars and you go with Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard, now that's over. Now that's gonna be now that's gonna be Suns in three. Because look, man, I've been stated on the record saying Russell Westbrook is not a postseason player. He's a regular season player. He's not really gonna be. He's gonna get his minutes cut in the playoffs, and I think he's not really gonna be able to be as effective as he is during the regular season. Again, the game is played different. They're really gonna force him to shoot. Just think of the 2020 bubble when he was on the Rockets. He was almost non-existent because of playoff basketball. So that is definitely my biggest concern is Paul George's health, because if Russell Westbrook has to be the number two guy, you are in big issue. You are in big problem. With the Suns, my biggest concern is absolutely chemistry. I mean, they've played less than 15 games together, but let's see what they can do. Let's go ahead and keep it pushing, y'all, to the next series, and that will be the 3 seed Sacramento Kings. It still feels crazy to say that, versus the 6 seed Warriors. For that, I got Warriors in 5. I really would say Warriors in 4, to be honest with you, but Mike Brown and his fast-paced offense is honestly the Warriors' weakness on the defensive end. So I think that they'll be able to get one game. But I mean, ultimately, man, the Warriors just have insane amount of playoff experience, and I think fully healthy are the better roster and have the better player, right? I just talked about that earlier, and the importance of in the playoffs, just having the better player on the court, that will make the entire difference. Having a player that can just say, "Give me the ball right now," and there's not a single player on his defense, offense in the crowd or in his vicinity that could guard me. You know what I'm saying? To have that will take you a long way. But I mean, as far as the difference maker for the Kings, I think it's going to have to be Sabonis. When the game slows down, when it becomes a lot more of a half court game, you do need a solid big to run a pick and roll with. So I think Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox will be able to do their thing. That'll be biggest difference maker. But ultimately, just no playoff experience. The game slows down, the game gets different, and the Warriors are going to be used to it, while the Suns are not. I mean, no disrespect, my boy Matthew Dellavedova. I already talked about this on the pod, but Matthew Dellavedova is the only player, and Harrison Barnes on that team that has deep playoff experience. And Matthew Dellavedova's playoff experience is getting cooked by Stephen Curry, and Harrison Barnes is watching Matthew Dellavedova getting cooked by Stephen Curry. So let's go ahead and get to the last playoff series that we have here in the West, and that is the 7 seed Lakers versus the 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. For that, I have Lakers in 6. Now, listen, before people freak out and before people say, I don't know what you're talking about, just listen, man. The people need to realize that this Lakers squad is not the same squad that was from the start of the year. It is not the same Russell Westbrook Lakers team. This is a totally different team. This team is well constructed and demands their respect. They've been the best team in the NBA since the All-Star break. But if you want to talk about the matchup between them and the Grizzlies, let's talk about it. I just don't think this is a good matchup for the Grizzlies, just period. I don't think this is a good matchup for the Grizzlies, period, right? Because we know Jaren Jackson Jr. cannot stay out of foul trouble. Steven Adams is out. He's ruled out for the season. Brandon Clark is out with injury. So that means that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have to handle Anthony Davis and take that all on his own. So all them fouls, he gonna have to eat them up. I will bet my money, y'all. So if there's somebody in the comment section that's really intentively listening and wants to bet this with me, I will bet money that Jaren Jackson Jr. will foul out at least 2 games or more. At least 2 games or more, Jaren Jackson Jr. will foul out. I'm trying to tell you right now, man, because he's not going to be able to handle Anthony Davis and all them times AD is going to be coming at his chest. And I mean, if Jaren Jackson Jr. fouls out, that means that Xavier Tillman or Santi Aldama is going to have to be guarding AD, because like I mentioned, Steven Adams and Brandon Clark they're injured. They're not available to be out there. And if that's the case, Anthony Davis is going to eat them up. And if Jaren Jackson Jr. has to play weary, trying to be careful not to foul, that's another baby food that Anthony Davis is going to eat up. So, I mean, if Anthony Davis can play at an MVP level that we all know that he can get to, I mean, I say this all the time, fully healthy, Anthony Davis is the best big in this league. And if Anthony Davis can play like that, if Anthony Davis can get to the free throw line the way he does, I think this is going to be a huge difference maker for the Lakers. And I mean, I think just can Anthony Davis get there? Because I think the mental battle with him, like, there's nobody that can stop him. It's the mental battle. Like, is Anthony Davis going to get in the way of Anthony Davis? I think that's the biggest difference maker for the Lakers. I think another reason that this isn't a good matchup for the Grizzlies is because if they do want to run small ball, the Lakers can match that by running their small ball with Rui or Winnie and Gabriel at the 5. But if the Grizzlies just for some reason want to try to run a big lineup, Lakers can match that as well and also run that big lineup. So I will say that I feel pretty confident that I know that the Lakers are clearly, the 7 seed, the Grizzlies are the 2 seed. I do have the Lakers winning this in 6. But last thing I will say is if the Lakers play the way they played against the Timberwolves, I can't guarantee that that the Lakers will win, man. They need to play like the way they played post All-Star break. So there you have it, everybody. That was a real quick play-in recap and my playoff prediction. Man, stay tuned. This episode is going to be dropping in the morning of Saturday, April 15th. So that would be like the first day of playoffs. So enjoy playoffs. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more episodes. And that's it. We out here, y'all. Peace.